What's up, guys? Grab your coffee. Let's chat. We're going to ask Pastor Craig, why did he preach a message this weekend on salvation to a church full of people that would probably already be saved? Let's talk about the devastation happening in California. Is there stuff we can do? Why does God let it happen? Why doesn't he stop it? And let's talk about Saul, Paul, why two names? How did that evil spirit become a good spirit? And a bunch of other questions that I got. Hey everyone, welcome to the Pastor's Hangover. My name is Melissa and we're here to chat. We're going to chat with some pastors at Grace Family Church. We're going to chat with Pastor Hal Mayer.
Good morning, on time.
Hey.
Well, this time,
great
yeah,
job.
you made it. You made
Great
it.
job. Pastor Craig Altman.
A little depressed. We'll talk about it in a minute, though.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Pastor Gerald Black.
Yeah, we were there together, so
We'll
we're going to talk about it.
I have some advice.
Yeah.
You
Now,
want to talk about it
Okay.
now?
did you do the chapel again?
I
No,
did.
here's the problem. Can I tell you what the big mistake in the game was?
Yeah.
Daryl was there. I was there. Daryl actually went on the field.
I did.
Got to go on the field, and
Were you
and
praying?
but here's what happened.
Over
I
the field?
believe the first step, reason they didn't even get off on the right foot was they didn't invite Daryl to do the chapel.
Oh, he didn't do the chapel.
No.
He didn't do the
Oh.
chapel.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that was the first mistake they
It
made.
was.
I'm just
There you
telling
go.
you, Bucks, you made a mistake.
So the
Yeah.
Bucks lost in the playoffs.
Yeah,
if
they
you
did. It was
are
bad. The
not following
Buccaneers.
what is happening.
Yeah, it was
So-
very bad. I actually, you talking about pastor's hangover? I had a Buccaneer hangover. I almost called in sick to work.
It was-
I was going. I don't want to
Bro.
come today.
It was rough.
It was rough,
It
man.
was rough,
Crying.
man.
It's bad when you lose bad. Like, that's the thing, is when you know it's like things that could easily be fixed or something.
Yeah,
It's
it
just
was
like,
bad.
gosh,
Yeah,
dang
it was
it.
bad.
But yeah,
I almost cussed. I'm just telling you.
almost.
You did.
I'm confessing on pastor's hangover.
Really?
He did. I felt
Bad.
that.
You felt
So
the
you were
good
both
thing.
at the game.
I felt him almost.
And football playoffs, single elimination, right?
Yes.
So they lost,
That's it.
and now
They're
they're
one
out.
and done.
That's it.
They're done till next
So
year.
what do you do between now and next year?
Who us?
You, I just don't. I know
I'm
this is such a
really
big part
hard
of your
because
life.
baseball's too slow. I watch a little hockey,
Yeah.
but man, I don't know what I'm going to do.
What's tough for me, yeah, because
Well,
we
I
have-
watched till the Super Bowl.
I'll
I watch all
watch
those
college
games.
basketball, but then once college basketball ends, it's like, yeah, it's tough. But
Well, I really like badminton. I love watching ESPN badminton. It's amazing.
No.
No, I don't. I'm just kidding.
Listen, I've seen some of those championships,
Those
one
are
or two. I'm
crazy.
like, yo, they're serious.
I like watching the ping
the
pong.
ping pong. Is
Yeah.
Oh,
is
man.
gosh,
insane.
insane.
We could have another match.
I heard that you got beat pretty good.
Yeah, I don't know. Who was that? Yeah,
Darnell told me that.
yeah.
So there was some trash
Oh,
talking.
yeah.
I
going
did.
on.
I won a game, but then they won. But anyway.
Pickleball or ping pong?
No,
Ping pong.
ping
Ping pong. We do have to play pickleball though.
Yeah. Darnell's wife commented on the podcast
She did
2 weeks ago.
And he
said,
came up, he
"Let's
trash
throw
talked a
down."
little bit.
Yeah,
So
he did.
I was like, all right,
Yeah.
They were
Darnell
ready.
can play from what
All
I
right.
hear.
let's go.
They're
yeah,
ready.
absolutely.
You know, I
And
mean,
you know,
we go.
her parents are huge fans of the Pastor's Hangover.
Oh,
they go to
oh,
Land
cool.
Lakes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And so they're all fans.
All right.
So,
All right.
We're
so
gonna,
I might have to vote for them
yeah.
in the
Hey.
in the showdown.
we're gonna
Oh,
do.
wow.
We might have to do a live
Wait, you're gonna
Pastor's
vote for
hangover
fans
on the ping pong table.
Oh man.
fans of the Pastor's Hangover over
Yeah.
the guys in the Pastor's Hangover is what you're saying right now?
The fans are what keep us going.
Oh, okay.
You know, if it was just the four of us,
That's true. We wouldn't
we
keep
wouldn't be here. All right, let's
All
jump
right,
in.
sorry. They
Yeah.
want to hear some spiritual stuff.
Yeah,
We're
let's,
just
let's
chatting.
jump
Let's
in
jump
here.
in.
What are we
Pastor
here for?
Craig is going to encourage his own spirit with what he's going to share today because we're all feeling a little down
better.
about
I'm
the
better.
Bucks. So Pastor Craig shared this weekend a message about salvation.
Yeah.
And
Heaven, forgiveness. Yeah.
it was just in this kind of God's got this, Unshakable is the name of the series, and really powerful. And go back and watch the message. We'll link it in the YouTube version. But a bunch of questions. Thank you guys for submitting your questions each week. I'm sorry we never get to all of them, but just keep submitting and we'll keep,
I like how you looked at Daryl
rotating
when
them
you said
in.
that. That was good.
Oh wow, that hurts.
We are all guilty, except for me,
Yes,
of talking
course.
too much. So what, well, the question we have for Pastor Craig, why would you share a message on salvation to people who are already sitting in a church?
Yeah. I think we make assumptions that everyone that's religious or goes to church really is going to heaven.
Yeah.
Jesus never made that assumption.
Nope.
There was a man named Nicodemus, came to Jesus, and Jesus pretty much looked at this religious guy and said, "You must be born again, or you'll never see heaven." So we do it because being religious and having knowledge doesn't necessarily mean salvation. In fact, we had, I think, 360 people fill out cards this weekend on all campuses.
Yeah.
Give their lives to Christ. So that's the reason we do it, because religion can be very deceptive. You can know the stuff or be religious or do all the ritualistic things, be confirmed, go through classes, but that doesn't make you saved. That's why the message was real basic, real simple, and encourage you to go back and listen to it. But I mean, salvation is based not on works.
Yeah.
It's not based on trying to be good enough or a good performance, or I'm going to work on my behavior. Those are all good things.
Yeah.
But those don't save us, because if they did, if somehow we could perform our way to heaven, my simple question would be, then why did Jesus have to die on a cross?
Right.
Then that was a waste. What you're saying is he doesn't need to do this. I've got this. No, you don't have it. God's got this. And we're saved through the grace and the mercy of God. And it's a great message. The gospel is good news.
Yeah.
But like I said in the message, you got to believe the bad news, the undeniable truth that we've all sinned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know you guys hold Daryl way up there because he can sing and preach, but Daryl has sinned.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot.
Amen.
A lot.
We all need grace.
Yes.
We all need a savior.
Yes.
We all need someone that had to pay the price for us, and Jesus was the perfect sacrifice. In fact, we use the word scapegoat. Jesus was a scapegoat. They used to take in the Old Testament, they would lay hands on a goat and send it out into the wilderness, and that was symbolic of carrying the sins of the people.
Yeah.
Jesus did that for us, man.
Yeah.
Is that cool or what?
It is. And that's the thing. A lot of people have head knowledge, but there's no heart. There's no follow through. And one of the things you talked about was, if there hasn't been a change in your life, then you prayed a prayer. You didn't meet God. You didn't meet Jesus. And that's one of the things we talk about a lot, because for some people, it takes a while to get to that point. They think they understand it, but then all of a sudden the Holy Spirit makes it very real in that moment. And then another thing that you said was, man, how many of those people that are unhappy that maybe we're talking about such a basic idea are sharing their faith with other people? And so are you sharing your faith? Because this is a reminder of that. And we need to be reminded of what Jesus did. It's one of the reasons why we celebrate the Lord's Supper, is remembrance, because we forget all the time. And so we need to be reminded of those things. And one thing I'd just like to add, whenever we're doing a message like this, or we're in the moment where we are that time of prayer where we're going, hey, if you want to give your life to Christ, if you've already given your life to Christ and you know it, please be praying with us.
Yeah.
Please be praying. Like, that is not a time to just go, oh, well, sermon's done. No, that's a time for you to pray, for the Holy Spirit to move, for people's hearts to be softened, for them to take their next steps. Like, please don't just sit back in that moment and say, I've heard this before. This is a moment for you to be a part of what we're doing.
No, I think the coolest thing is you were reminding people. I mean, we can't assume, and you said it already, we can't assume just going to church means you're going to heaven. There are a lot of people. Membership doesn't mean devotion. We can't assume that everybody that comes to church goes to heaven any more than we can assume that everybody that goes to a gym is on a diet. It's that they don't. Just because you go there doesn't mean that you're part of the program. And so you're part of what's happening. And so we make no assumptions that everybody in the room knows God. And what I love that you did even more was reminding, hey, if you prayed a prayer, that might have been the only thing that you did. And then, but is that all you did? Like, you used the song, but the Bon Jovi song, you're living on the prayer, but you're not living by the word of God. You haven't committed your life. You just show up because you like church. You like community, but you haven't sold out to God. It's surrendering your life to God. And for some people, they need to be reminded, okay, I did do this. Thank God. Or some people go, oh man, I didn't. I didn't do that. And I've gone to church with people for years. I remember as a teenager, this guy was like, I thought I was saved, and realized I never. I just went to church because my family went to church. I just assumed I was going to heaven because we were all going to church. And I never surrendered my life to God. And so that was awesome that you get to do that, because it challenged people to go, am I just coming to sit in a seat,
checking a box, or and there's a tension, because I said at the very end of the message that works are not the root of our salvation, but they are the fruit.
They are.
If there's no works, if there's no movement, if there's no desire to to be transformed, or you don't see any difference or any change, you really need to check it out and say, "Man, was that for real?" Because it want to make it real. You know, you want that relationship.
And I'm glad you said that. I got into a conversation with someone on the weekend. They was like, "Well, is it faith-based or works-based?" And I said, "Yeah."
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah, we are saved by grace through faith. And so I don't have to do anything to receive the gift that God had. But because I believe in that, my life represents what I believe in. And it's in everything that we do in every area of life. You believe that when you go to that job that they're going to give you a paycheck. So you keep showing up. So you keep doing the thing to get what you believe the benefit is going to be. The same thing is true when we give our life. Because I gave my life to Christ, I'm going to live differently, act differently, because I believe in the reward. I believe in the promises of God. So this is why I do the things that I do.
And the Holy Spirit in you begins to help you to transform that process. I mean, James 2 said, faith with no actions, it's dead. Both are needed, but really, again, works are the fruit. There should be fruit. And again, we're not talking about perfection.
Nope.
We don't want to challenge people. Well, we're not going to create doubt. But if you've just said a prayer and you've no desire to read the word, no desire to change, no conviction of the Holy Spirit about the way you've been living, I would definitely do a good self-inventory and go, okay, wait a minute, I want to be authentic about this.
James even goes on to say, you know who Jesus is, but it doesn't change anything. That's demonic.
Yeah, even
like
the devil
demons
believes.
know.
Even the
Like,
devils know
they
that.
know exactly who Jesus is, but it hasn't changed their life. And so there's a big difference that happens there.
So
good.
It's powerful.
Unshakable. So I love it. I mean, I don't want to die, but if I die today, I have absolute confidence, not because I'm a pastor, or because I believe in what Jesus did for me on the cross. You know? Think about the thief, man. Talking about a Hail Mary. Now, he had no opportunity to give good works. But on the cross, Jesus said, today you'll be with me in paradise. What an amazing, merciful God. Folks, he's merciful.
That's the standard of his grace.
Yes.
And then that's the standard of our surrender. I mean, Jesus knew that guy was going, no, you are. You are exactly who you say you are. So,
Good stuff.
And also in the message, you chatted about Paul, right? You talked about the name change. One of the questions you got is, why the name change? Why 2 names? I know it came up in the message, but even though he changed his name, isn't it the same spirit still in Saul?
Can I
let me that one.
Yeah.
That sometimes get misinterpreted. In the Bible, there's only 3 name changes that we know of. And then there are some other name changes that we think are name changes, but they're not necessarily. So Abram becomes Abraham, Sarai becomes Sarah.
Peter's name, right?
Jacob becomes Israel. Peter actually is not one. Peter's name is Simon Peter.
So he just chose,
but which is normal in the Roman culture that they would use 2 names, sometimes 3 names. So even Saul is his Hebrew name. Paul is his Roman name. So God didn't change his name. And so it's like I got a friend named Josue. He's from Dominican Republic. But in America, it's Joshua. His name didn't change. It's just the different version of the same name.
But he was called Paul after salvation, which is interesting.
So he chose to use that when he's using saying that as he's ministering to the Gentiles, he uses his Roman name and not his Hebrew name
because he had more leverage as a Roman citizen.
Yes, and so he just it's the same guy, same name. His name isn't changed, but he chooses to use that name. And when you do the historical research, you'll find that several people are using 3 and 4 names, and it was just what they did because they didn't have last names, so they would have 2 or 3 versions of their same name. And so even the disciples had 2 or 3 versions of their name that they used. And when you do history, like you'll see Matthew. And you'll see different versions of Matthew. Like, is this the same guy? Yeah, same guy, different name. So
the point is, no one's too far from the reach of God. He was this, anti
Well, and I would say
Jesus
this.
Yeah,
died and God
Pharisee,
saved
yeah.
him.
It said, did it say spirit? Same spirit
Yes.
was the question? Well, yeah, actually there is a new spirit. It's called the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
So yes,
Yeah.
there's he is the same person, but there's a new spirit that's
Yeah.
living within
That's
him
right.
that is changing him and doing this different. So yeah, he does have a new spirit that lives within him.
Yeah.
And so we can't underestimate what the Holy Spirit can do through us. So yes, that is that new spirit that we have in us as Christians that allows us to change. So yeah.
And in Paul's case, it probably did him good to identify even himself as Paul, because under the name of Saul, he was
known to be a
persecuting,
terror. Yeah,
persecuting people.
Christians.
And there was, from the time that it was probably, I think, 3 years before he actually started his ministry. So it was 3 years. So he had to create some distance between Saul
He had a pretty
and
bad
Paul.
reputation, because then when he went to Damascus, the dream that was it Tarsus? Said, no, I don't want to pray for
He
that.
said, no, not that dude.
No.
We know this dude. He out here killing people.
Right.
He out persecuting. So,
God's good.
Okay, this is a off-topic question.
All right.
Are you ever like laying in bed with your spouse and it's like 11:30 and they're like, "Hey, do you ever think about why there's so much lineages in the Bible?" And I'm like, "No, honey, like go to bed." And then he's like, "Well, there's just so much. Like I was reading it today and there's like so much." He's like, "There must be a reason." And I was like, "I don't know. I'll ask you on the pastor's hangover." So anyway, that's Ed's question. This is my husband's question.
yeah.
Yeah. No,
She would never tap me at 11:30 at night to ask me a question.
Well, you've been asleep
He's in
4 hours
REM.
then.
bro.
He's in.
Leave me alone.
But
He's on his fifth dream.
there was a time where Chrissy literally, the moment I was falling asleep, would go, "Hey, you're awake?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no." But when you say no, she knows you're awake.
Right.
Right.
Yeah,
You
no.
just answered me.
No,
You
the
can't-
lineages are incredibly important, especially, I mean,
Absolutely.
you look in Matthew and Luke, it shows.
Gives it for a reason.
Well, one, it shows that Jesus did come from the bloodline of David.
Yeah.
But it also shows what God did. Like, what's crazy is when you look through the lineages, the people that he used, the women that
Rahab,
he used.
the prostitute.
You had Rahab, you had Ruth, and so Bathsheba. And you have these people that have gone through many different, and it shows how God can move through generations that it doesn't make sense that even some of those generations went on to do what he's going to do.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to get into, I'm going to be talking about God's unshakable plan this week, and the idea, like, we can't stop it, and he does it no matter, he uses Christians, non-Christians, people that don't like him, people that don't want him succeed to do what he's going to do. And so the lineages help us understand that.
It's pretty awesome. If you go back and your husband might enjoy this, and you're reading the book of Numbers, where it's really going through, who begat who begat who. And at first glance, you can think, why? Why do I need to know all these people were married and connected to this person? But when you start studying and you go, wow, this person was connected to this kingdom. And so they were over this tribe and this group, and they started this temple. And so it's all intertwined and connected. It's important. There's nothing in the Bible that is just random.
Wasted.
And it's like, oh, we're just going to throw that in. It's all very intentional and specific why we need to know these people. And so most people don't deep dive into that, but there is a reason to have it in there. Prophecy is a part of it.
Yeah.
Lineage is understanding that lineage, where Jesus came from, and the fact that God has been intentional from the very beginning.
Very beginning.
And so
It's an historical account, but it
Yeah.
obviously has a purpose intertwined in that. It's
Yeah.
not just, but it is, it's good.
It reminds me, Chrissy McClellan, a pastor, she shares about pearls. Like there's all these little pearls throughout the Bible that we have to piece together. And so sometimes the lineages don't look, what's the story you're trying to tell here? It's not clear necessarily on paper. You got to piece it together.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same way. When you look through the Old Testament through the lens of Jesus, it changes the way you look at everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It changes the way you look at the stories, because so much of it is just like,
It's a foreshadowing.
that's a glimpse of it.
Yeah.
That's a glimpse of what he's going to do there. That's a glimpse of what he's going to do there. It changes the way you look at it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you guys. It just saved me another
Yeah.
wake-up call.
There you go.
Who's waking up a pregnant woman at 11:30 to
Man,
ask a
that's
question?
right.
Come on,
That's
man.
dangerous.
Come on,
No,
man.
that's what I'm saying.
You do the ice cream pickle thing, just
Not
have
yet.
these, no,
Weird
You haven't had those
cravings?
cravings.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm gonna pray for it. One of her cravings is gonna be coconut,
Ooh.
like
Start calling
like
it.
Mounds
Joyce.
bars
Start
and
calling
almond
her old
joy.
pregnant
Yeah,
lady.
Wow.
That's what we call her.
yeah.
Almond Joys. Well, we were just talking about your favorite Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
It's Girl Scout cookies season.
Yeah.
Right?
It's time to go down.
And I don't know. You know, these guys like the Samoas because they got the coconut. That's all I'm saying.
Yep.
All right. And the next question is kind of heavy, but really relevant to what's going on in the world right now. I think anyone that is on social media, watches the news, is seeing the devastation that's happening in California. The question we got was, why does God let devastation like this happen? Like the wildfires in California, the consumption of it, how it's consuming the land when he can just end it.
Well, pull back a little bit because I come from a believing that we live in a broken world. Not only are people broken, but the environment's broken.
Yeah.
It's very clear in Genesis that when this all happened that God is going to bring restoration, but there is this environment that's broken in the world, and that's part of, unfortunately, what we have to live in humane. Now, some of it is because of poor decisions, poor choices. I mean, we need to take care of our environments, but if we don't do certain things, it can create more problems for our environment. So I'm not like we don't take care of our environment, but we live in a crazy, broken world. In fact, in the last days, the sign of the last days will be earthquakes in different places, and so there's this and
it's not that God is causing it either.
No.
What so frustrates me is hurricanes will hit Florida, Texas, all that kind of stuff, and nobody will say anything. Once something happens in California, it's like, oh, those unbelievers, God's punishing them. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
No, that's what we live in, a sinful world where these kind of things happen. Like you said, in Revelation actually says that they're going to get worse ahead of the end times. And so if anything, it's just a reminder of the world that we live in. Yeah.
It hit home for us. Our son is in LA.
Yeah.
So my oldest son is in LA.
He just moved from California.
Yeah. And so we've gone through really horrible fires some years ago, and we've seen just the damage that it can do. And one of the fires that we went through was 2 hours away from our house, but we still had significant damage in our neighborhood, which is it was horrible.
Ashes and everything.
The ash,
smoke.
and air quality horrible. And my son, who lives off Sunset Boulevard, he's half a mile from where the fires are. And so, and I haven't shared this a lot with people, but we called him and he was panicking. He was frantic. He's like, what do I do? Never gone through this because it was a mile away from his home and they were calling for evacuation. And so we get him on the phone and he's kind of frantic and we're praying for him. And maybe an hour or two later, they call back, say, don't have to evacuate. We've contained the fire. It's half a mile away from his home. And so that was, as parents, you're like,
that's
yo,
close.
God, what's going on? What's happening? And you already said it. I think one of the things we have to remember is creation is broken.
It is.
We live in a broken and fallen world. And it's a product of, okay, let me say it like this. We want free will until it's not what we want.
Right.
We want to do whatever we want to do, however we want to do, until things don't turn out the way we think they should turn out. And then we go, God, why didn't you?
Right. Yeah. Why did you allow this now or whatever?
Why did you let this happen? Why didn't you stop this from happening? And so, two answers to that. One, we already answered. We live in a broken world. So that's why some things happen. And I think the other answer to that is, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's some stuff you go, I don't know. This is why God says my thoughts are higher than your thoughts, my ways higher than your ways. I don't know. It's the same question that Job is asking. Hey, how did this end up happening to me? And God never says, here's why.
No, he doesn't.
I don't know. But what I have learned reading the scripture is God never wastes devastation. He never wastes pain. And so even in ashes, new life can happen. And so we've got to be going, we've got to be praying for those people, praying for the families, praying for LA like we would pray for any place else, but saying, God, I hope how can I show your glory in the midst of it? How will you get the glory out of this? How can I pray for those people? How can your light still shine? How does the church still come together in these devastating moments. And it's an opportunity for us to shine like never before. It's an opportunity for the churches that are in LA and surrounded to go, let's show up and
help them. Yeah.
Show you what the hands and feet of Jesus look like in real time. We've seen it when we had the hurricanes a couple months ago. We had trucks going out from our church immediately. And not just to other church people, to the community. So the community got an opportunity to say, okay, this is what the hands and feet of Jesus look like in real time. And I'm praying, God, use this for your glory. I don't know how. It hurts. There's a lot of broken families, people who have lost all of their property. Some insurance companies are denying claims. Some of them are going bankrupt. And so we don't know what the recovery time and process is going to look like, but we believe Romans 8. That God can work things out for his good and his glory. How he's going to do it, I don't know. But God used me in some way to be a part of that. And so that's what we really have to pray for instead of sitting on, why did you do this? Why did you do this? But more of, God, what do you want me to do in the middle of this?
And we hear that stories all the time, people in the midst of tragedy, in the midst of having great losses, when they find God, they find Christ. I mean, they're stripped of things. All of a sudden they realize how small they are and how big God is. So I'm believing that this will just stir people to go, man, I'm not in control. You know?
Who is it that said, we were somewhere that someone said, you never know how much you need God until God is all you have.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, that's so true. And that's why lots of atheists like to look at the suffering in the world and go, there cannot be a God because of all the suffering in the world. And there's been a lot of people, and there's this one scientist, I'm trying to think of his name. He's written a couple books, and he goes, don't use my pain for your ending statement. He goes, my pain is what brought me to God.
Yeah, wow.
He goes, don't. It's very easy to take a broad stroke of those things and say all pain, all of this is bad, but many times it is what leads to something that's better. You know, it's interesting with fire. A lot of those areas, they're used to fire because fire under the right conditions, there's a lot of trees that only spread their seed when there's fire. So there's a lot of new growth. There's a lot of things that happen because of fire, but fire in the wrong conditions is devastating. And so it's just one of those things. It's the same thing with so much of our life. And you talk about free will. There's many things that are okay in the right conditions, but in the wrong conditions, they go the wrong direction. And so it's devastating. And so, it's like
tough.
Sex outside of marriage, devastating. Sex inside of marriage, exactly what it's supposed to be.
I think what Daryl said at the beginning is it's disaster is hard to explain sometimes. There's certain parts about the brokenness, the fallenness of this world, but the other part is, man, we're just going to trust God in the midst of it.
We know devastation.
I
mean, we had back-to-back hurricanes here. So we know what devastation looks like. So we know what they're going through. Pray. And then don't just pray. Ask God, how can I be a part of this? And what does that mean? And for some people, that's only going to be prayer. But there are some people, you have the resources to help. So help, whether that's Venmoing people, becoming a part of an organization, whatever that looks like, find a way to be a part of the solution. This is why God puts us here. He says, they will know you're my disciples by how you love each other. So how are we loving each other across the country, across the world? How are we showing that love of Jesus Christ to other disciples and other people? And so love each other and do that the best way you know how. Ask God give you some spiritual discernment and how you can be his hands and feet in this situation and let that show up in a big way.
I think that's some good tangible next steps that people can do. And I think a lot of times the fear from people that are not there, right? People that are here, let's say, they feel out of control. They can't control. They can't control. Well, Pastor Daryl just gave you some ways you can help and you can be a part of the solution for sure. And we just got to hear from some speakers from Minneapolis came in. We got to hear from them the last 2 days. And my biggest takeaway, just stuck with me, was they said a lot of times you're asking the why question. Why God? Why this? Why that? Why that? He goes, if you just ask instead, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to know? God, what do you want me to know? What do you want me to do? That is just so applicable in everything in my life. Like I can always ask that question instead of, why would I pay for this person's groceries? Why would I do this? Why would I, even positive things like why would I be nice to that person? No, God, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to know?
Yeah.
And we can kind of take those two
What
steps.
leads to growth? Why tends to stagnate?
Yeah.
Not that we can never ask why, but what if we never get to the what, we tend to stagnate. Yeah, I mean, I know many people that their entire lives have been asking the question why. Why would God allow this to happen? Why would God?
And they stay stuck there.
They stay stuck.
And it's tough. Yeah.
Very powerful. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up another super fun, eventful episode of the Pastor's Hangover?
Super fun.
How many episodes are we in?
Like 65.
Wow.
Wow,
right.
wow, we've done 65.
good.
Okay.
Isn't
Wow.
that crazy?
And we still like each other. That's
We do.
And people still listen.
And he was on time.
He was on time this time. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still growing.
Yeah,
We're
man.
all
Still
growing.
growing.
Can we do something? Do we do something for, when do we do something big? Like 75?
Well, we did a
Okay.
year.
It's the anniversary. Did
We did a
something
year. No, we did
What
the year.
we
Remember
do?
we had the balloon. Maybe you weren't. That's
I
when
was
you.
I
flying
threw a
out here.
party.
Great, man.
I
Party
feel like
without me,
almost every
whatever.
time we've had food, except for one, you've been gone.
Thanks.
But
The next week I'll be here.
Yeah. So yeah, just I'm excited to be here. Glad that we get to do what we do.
Yeah.
I want to encourage people, continue to send in your questions,
Yeah.
even if they have nothing to do with the message, but they're just
right.
how to live practically in this life and the hard questions. We want to answer those hard questions. We want to talk about it and wrestle with it with you, because some of those questions you have, we've had those same questions and are still having some of those same questions. And you never know how many other people are having those questions too. And so this is a great and safe place to be able to figure it all out. And we don't know all the answers.
We're going to always try to base on the Bible.
Yep.
Other than that.
That's
Yeah.
it. That's what we're going for. So let's keep doing
someone
it.
asked, would you ever do a live episode on a weekend?
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. We
And it
talked about
wasn't.
that
It wasn't
before.
my mom, so that's a good sign.
Yeah, might be a good thing to do.
That would be cool.
We talk about that with like sending in questions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
live Q&A.
That'd be
Sweet.
fun.
Yeah.
We're doing
Well,
it.
thank
Maybe
you
that's 100
guys.
episodes. Well, only Daryl gets to give his.
Oh, I'm sorry.
his
Closing thoughts.
ending
I'm so
thoughts.
sorry.
No, it's all right. I get it.
I'm going to sing for my closing
but
thoughts. So
no,
I'm
one
the
thing
Whoopi Goldberg over here. What is happening?
I think
If
I
you know,
I-
you know.
I think I'd say this. I think it's so easy to be stagnated by paying attention to everything going on in the world and forgetting about what's in front of you. Not that we don't look at the world, not that we don't pay attention to those things, not that we don't pray for them and all of that, but don't forget that there is life happening in front of you. There's people God's asking you to help out, to be with. Don't allow yourself to just become stagnated and in that frozen state of looking at the world and realize that all we can do, we can't control it. We can't.
Yeah.
But we can decide what we're going to do with our day. And
that's good. And I would say the person asked, why did God allow this in California? I would say, go read Job chapter 42. The first 30-something chapters, Job says, why is this happening? I lost some of my children, lost my prosperity, lost my health. And then finally, God says, brace yourself like a man. I'm going to talk to you.
Yeah.
And for the next several chapters, it's the most amazing to me scriptures in the Bible. And again, he never answers the question of why, but he really talks about who he is and his ultimate wisdom. And
He changes his perspective.
Yeah.
He changes his, you're asking this why.
So
and
go
God
read
goes, wait a
Job
minute, let me
42.
change your
Yeah.
perspective for a second.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's a great. I think it starts in 38 or 42, somewhere around there, but it's amazing.
And it's about, God spends like 6 or 7 chapters going, hey, let me change your perspective for a moment.
Yeah. And then Job answers at the end, I should have never said anything. Forgive me, I'll shut up. That's what he does. At the end, he goes, why did I even ask that question?
So good.
So
that's a good.
Yeah, it's tough when you're going in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We're just next year for the Buccaneers. We'll wait for next year. I'm going for. I'm trying to think of who my team is now. I've always had a backup team in the AFC. It's the Kansas City Chiefs. It's like Mahomes. The NFC. I like Detroit, but man, JT Daniels, man,
Bro.
that kid is amazing.
I like Detroit's
I like
coach.
Detroit.
Just that, he reminds me of Bill Cowher, like back in the that.
Wow.
Yeah, they haven't won
we're
anything
gonna
in a
punch
long
you in
time.
the face.
Detroit's never won anything in
they
football.
haven't.
Yeah.
And I like Goff is that throwaway guy that's doing better. You know,
right. Yeah, that's true.
I like that storyline, but they've got so many stinking injuries. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Good.
You have a team?
My team is we're not going to talk about my team right now. They'll talk about me. I'm a longtime fan. I'll say it. Cowboys.
Oh boy,
I know.
I knew there was
talking
something
about
about
Deion.
you.
I know. long
I knew there
time,
was
man.
something about
I
you
know.
guys,
You
Greg.
never
Grayson.
revealed that till today, man.
Till today.
Wow.
It always
All
bothered
of
me that they all of
you.
a sudden decide we're America's team.
Yes.
I'm like, that's a bold claim.
That's a very bold.
How do you, what? Win a playoff game. Maybe you'll.
Yeah, they just fired their coach. He's
Yep.
gone.
Yes, they did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
It's been.
All right, well, more football to come
right.
between now and Super Bowl, but more Pastor's Hangover to come for
Yes.
sure. Thank you guys for being with us for another episode. We will see you next week.
All right.